Okay, so next, what we're going to do is in Photoshop, we have Jonathan here, and we have layers. I'm looking at my layers, and I'm looking at my channels. So RGB, obviously, we can look at all the red in the image, all the blue in the image, all the green in the image, and then we have these other two channels. Now these two channels show up as red in your image. However, they do not print. Some people like this effect and they think, oh wow, cool. Now you can replicate this effect in a different way, but if you printed this image to a color printer, these would not print. They are non-printing. So I'm going to hide the t-shirt channel for right now. What you should have active is RGB in your channels menu. All right, now let's go back to adjustment layers. So we sharpened Jonathan, we adjusted his levels. Now let's see what else does this picture need? Okay, well, I'm thinking that I'm going to take another copy of the background. I'm going to make another copy by dragging it. And so we'll call this, I'm just going to call this one Jonathan. I'm going to name my layers because naming your layers is a good practice. Jonathan adjusted. And this one's going to be Jonathan retouched. Okay, so retouching is a huge industry. So there's money to be made in getting rid of people's moles, fixing their teeth, all that stuff. So we're just going to do a little tiny retouch on Jonathan. We're not going to make him, look weird or artificial or, stuff that they do to everybody basically whose face is in print. We're just going to remove a few itty-bitty flaws and we're going to whiten his teeth. Okay, so this brings us to our set of retouching tools here, and they are underneath the eyedropper. So underneath the eyedropper there's this thing called the patch tool, which we'll get to shortly. But what we're going to use is, there are two brushes. They look like Band-Aids, and they're called healing brushes, and they actually work really, really well. The spot healing brush will literally, Photoshop is looking at, so everybody choose the spot healing brush. It is going to look at something like a mole or a blemish, and it's going to look at the context of it, and try to erase it. So if you notice, I have a very small brush here, and if I click once or twice, it's going to attempt to reduce the size or eliminate that blemish. So I'm getting rid of I'm minimizing his 3 moles, and then I'm going to start minimizing dark spots. Okay, so if we were going to get super picky, which we are because we can, so if I use the spot healing brush, that's kind of a rougher, it gives me a rougher result. However, if I use the next one down, the healing brush, that allows me, I'm going to reduce the size of my brush again, that one allows me to take a patch of skin, essentially, from over here. I'm going to click on the Option key, and then I click over here, and it replaces and smooths out the edges of those moles and skin imperfections. So we are now getting rid of, any like dark spot or skin imperfection. And believe me, they do this on every single celebrity. And I'm going to use a soft brush for that. I'm going to take my hardness down to about 50%. And I'm going to tailor the size of the brush to the size of the blemish. So this one's a little bit bigger here, so I'm going to increase the size of my brush. I'm going to Option click on an adjacent area of skin, and I'm going to remove that blemish. So now Jonathan has a blemish-free neck. Okay, so I'm going to pause this